our internal mud, right? And so this video is an investigation of what that mud is. So this is a really interesting topic because it's something that I think we are all hesitant to explore. And that mud, and it's very logical as to why we're hesitant to explore it, because that mud is our darkness, right? It's our closet that we don't want to open. It's the skeletons, it's the traumas, the beliefs. It's the moments we were bullied, or the moment we got turned down at a job, or when things didn't go our way, or all the things that we hold on to. That's the mud, right? It's the darkness inside. And we all have it. Anything in life that we're attaching to, that we're holding on to, becomes a part of that darkness. I would argue even good things in life, even the best things in life. Because if we attach to things that are super happy or joyous, amazing moments and all that type of stuff, then we're comparing. Like this party that's coming up, oh, I hope it's going to be so amazing. You know, the last one was incredible, and this one, I hope it's as good as it was before. We're suffering, right? There's no way we can maintain that type of a relationship because things are dynamic and they're changing. And if we're attaching to an expectation, we're almost always, if not always, going to be let down. And when we're let down, we internalize it. Even if it's a micro bit of attachment, it's still going to be buried in the body somewhere. So that mud that we need to turn into in this video, I want to identify it by beginning a conversation as to not only where it is in the body, but what is it as well. So let's look at the where first. Anything that we experience in life that is traumatic, or anything that we are holding on to, is going to be held to some degree in the physical body. Think about things like butterflies in the stomach, right? A nervous stomach. When we fall in love, we get heart palpitations. When we have a panic attack, we tightness in the chest. If we are going on stage or in front of a crowd of people to give a public speech that we're not prepared for, you might feel a knot in your throat. Those are the very tangible and very real expressions of the things that I'm talking about here. Now, imagine what happens when you are going through maybe a frightening situation and you are experiencing that, but it's moving through. Like, so maybe you're getting, maybe there's a car accident. Maybe you get into a car accident. Maybe you were in one when you were younger, or something like that, or something that caused a lot of fear or fright. As we move through that experience, we are experiencing a whole avalanche of emotions, but there's going to be an overarching one, right? So there might be fright, there might be anger, there might be sadness, all of these types of things. Those emotions in that instance, like let's say again, the car accident, we might not be able to process in real time the fear or the fright that is arising from this instance. So what do? We bury it, we push it down. We know these statements, we say them all the time, like, oh, that sadness, just bury it deep. How many times have we said that, right? Just push it back down, don't let it come up, don't open up. In that space, if we are burying it down, that energy is still with us. That fear or that fright, it's like it's been compressed into a little knot and put into the body. And that becomes part of, or a facet of, the darkness or the mud that's inside. And so it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, it makes a lot of sense that we wouldn't want to face this, because the belief is that by facing that mud inside, or we're going to have to go through all of that again, or it's going to be so overwhelming, or it's going to, I'm not strong enough to do it, I'm not ready to do it, it's too scary, it's too this, that. Those are all perfectly logical explanations. And that's our survival mechanism. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's normal. We are afraid of the unknown. We don't want to go into the unknown, right? We don't want to jump into that because we don't know if we're going to land on our feet. We don't know what it's going to look like. But here's the beauty of it all. When we go into that mud, it's totally different this time, because it's like we're experiencing the ghost, or like a vapor or an essence, a very tenuous experience of the thing that happened. Let me give you a very, very practical and I hope relatable example, because this absolutely happened many times with me. Probably heard this in my videos before. I've broken my left arm here many times. So twice here, once here on the elbow, lots of breaks here. I've got plates in my arm and everything. And when I started to really work on the healing of that, giving myself Reiki on the arm, here's what I mean about the vapor of that trauma. This was a very traumatic break. I had bones sticking out of my arm, right? They literally were sticking right out of my arm. It was not very nice, so, obviously. And as I was working on it, when I would get down to the area of the trauma, I could feel the break again. Okay. And I mean that 100%. I could feel the entirety of the break again, as if it had just happened. But here's the key, and I hope you find this to be encouraging. When it happened, there was physical trauma, mental trauma, emotional trauma. There was all the other emotions coming, fear, maybe fright, maybe anxiety, maybe anger, all of that stuff, this avalanche of stuff that was happening. But guess what? When I'm working on the healing of it post and I go back to it, what's left? Nothing, because this has already healed and nothing is broken. So the only thing that's left there is, it's not nothing, but the only thing that's left is it's like the vapor of this experience or the memory or the imprint. So even though I'm feeling all of the pain of the break, there's nothing broken. There's nothing happening in my physical body that is sending off all these other alarms. And indeed, there's nothing on the nervous system that is getting me to freak out that I'm actually having a break. So while the pain is there, it's as if I can witness all of the pain, but also witness that it is totally detached. And if it's totally detached, then we can face it, because it's like sitting in front of a massive fire. You can see it, you can feel it, right? You can hear it, but you can't, it's not hitting the body. Like somehow that heat or that sensation is not in the body because you're not connected to it. So it'd be like sitting in front of a massive fire, but you're completely blocked from all of the stimuli of it. So that fire could grow 20,000 times bigger, right? It could just become a massive thing and it's still not impacting you. And when I started to notice that about the break on my arm with that example of the fire, it's as if the pain could be dialed up even beyond what I thought it was like with the break. And by doing that, I'm able to release more and more and more of it. And now there's nothing left. There's nothing left at all. There's no pain. There's no feeling of the break or anything. And so why am I giving this, this example here? I'm giving it because it is the mud. And when we turn to that mud and we turn and look at it, and we maybe for the first time, because there's always a first time for everything, right? There was a first time for me to finally have the courage to look at it long enough, to not be afraid of it, and to kind of stare it down or feel it. And I remember it was with the arm. It really hurt. So I'd stop giving Reiki. It really hurt. I'd stop, really hurt, and stop. But I started to notice that as soon as I took my hand away and was not engaging in Reiki, the pain would immediately drop off. So I'm like, wow, okay, that's weird. So if I go back, wow, there's the pain again. Now it's gone. There it is again. Now it's gone. Okay. So this is not something that's affecting me right now. So if it's not affecting me now, then when I'm doing the Reiki and I feel the pain, maybe it doesn't affect me then either. And then I started to recognize, like, wow, okay, hold on. So maybe I was just afraid of reliving the break, afraid of reliving the trauma, the moment, afraid of hearing it and bringing the memory back. And then guess what? Those things didn't happen. It was just the physical pain that I was feeling. And I was able to stay with it a little bit more and a little bit deeper, a little bit longer. And even though that pain started to get more intense, I could stay with it because I was familiar. It seemed like a safe place to be in. And so not only are we recognizing the mud here, but we're starting to turn into it. Why is that so important? Because in order for us to find our true self, we have to wade through the mud. Now, we are a being, of course, in a body, right? And that's not just the physical body, it's the physical, mental, and emotional and spiritual bodies. They all are a part of the total. And we quite often shy away from going inside. We don't want to go in because it's scary or it's dark or we're afraid of what we're going to find, or there was just too much in the past that we don't want to open up. You know, I hear this all the time in my practice. People tell me, I know what's in that closet. I don't want to open it up. But there's nothing in the closet. It's just a belief. The skeletons don't exist. It's the fear of opening that closet that exists. And now I'm not trying to trivialize the mud, because when we open that door, it will avalanche out. But it's, like I said in the previous video, it's a vapor. It's a thing that is external to us. It's like an imprint or a memory. And so if we turn in to that mud, then we're going to finally start to release it. You know, and the beauty of this is that the body, all of the bodies that I mentioned earlier, give us a beautiful indication as to where to go. And that indication is pain. Pain is obviously a warning sign or an alarm bell from one of the bodies for you to pay attention, to just stop what you're doing and pay attention to that thing. And it's amazing in our existence, you know, here on earth, in our life, in our embodiment right now, we have a literal infinite number of things to keep us away from that pain. I work with people who are, you know, filling every single moment of their life with activities and things and sports and everything. It could be drugs or alcohol. It could be meditation. It could be doing way too much yoga, whatever it might be. All of that stuff, that there can never be a moment of peace and quiet because there's fear. The fear is in that peace and quiet, then who am I left with? Just the self. And that's going to force me to turn in. And I don't want to look inside. I don't want to look at that darkness. I don't want to open that door. That's fine. But here's the question I want to pose. If we feel the pain, and if we open the door, and if we face ourselves, we are not ever going to open that door more than we need to, or more than we're able to. Our bodies are far more intelligent than that. If we just pulled that door wide open and just let that avalanche hit us, it would probably be too much. And we all know that. So when you start to open that door and you feel that that darkness or that vapor is coming out, there's going to be a moment where you're like, it's too much. I'm scared. It's too much. I can't handle it. But then the door is closed. You've let some of the pressure out. It's gone. And then you can open it again. It's never going to be too much. And if you feel it's going to be too much, then put yourself in the hands of somebody who can walk with you on that journey. Because here is the leveling question to ask. Is the fear of the unknown and the difficulty of suppressing all of that weight and those memories and that trauma and all of that stuff, is that easier to do than a life of constant friction? Everything in life is trying to get us to pay attention to what we're holding on to. And so maybe this resonates. Maybe it's how you are. Maybe I'm sure that you have friends who are like this. A busy mind, a busy body. I've always got to do something. I've got to be doing something. I can't keep my mouth closed. I can't stay still. I can't keep my mind quiet. I'm always active. If we can slow down, because every single moment of activity is really just how many things can I place in a row from being awake until going to sleep to keep my mind occupied so I never look inside. And that is totally 100% understandable and normal. But at some point, if you could just open the door a little bit and face that internal mud and let a little bit of it go, well, then during the day, you're going to need less time occupied by the mind and the body, because there's going to be an increasing amount of stillness. And I promise, a life that is constantly occupied and busy with friction and everything in the mind and all the suffering in the body, holding on to all of that, feeling like you're dragging weights with you on every single step, that's exhausting. That will kill you. That's death by 1,000 cuts. Whereas turning inward, even if just for a minute, turn in, let some of that pressure go, and then everything in your normal life is going to become that much easier, even if it's just a baby step at first. That starts to change because you start to build momentum. You start to turn into the mud more and wash more and more of it clean. And as you do that, there's simply less mud. Less mud here, more stillness here. More stillness here gives you more courage and confidence to face the mud again. And it becomes this beautiful feedback loop. More stillness means more rest, means more stamina to face yourself again. Facing yourself again means you're letting go of more. And it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's incredible because that's the journey that we have to take. Full stop. Everybody has to take that. Everybody has to take it. Nobody is free from it. What we hold on to, we have to face. That's it. Because beyond that mud is our true self. It's our heaven, it's our light. And we need to try to get there. We need to supersede the trauma that's inside to get down to the true self. And so in all of that, the takeaway here, or the point that I would really like to stress is don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of it. It's just a ghost. It's just a shadow. It's a specter. It's wind. It's darkness. Guess what happens when you shine any light on darkness? It dissipates. Even if it's just a little spark. Light a spark in your darkness and watch it all disappear. It might sound impossible. It might be like, I can never stop my mind. It's not possible. It's not possible. It is possible. Your mind is probably not that busy as you're listening to me speak right now. Or just close your eyes and take a big breath, full breath, and then exhale. Your mind slows down. It is possible. Anybody can do it. Slow down the mind, turn into the darkness, light a little spark, and then come back. You've done it. That's it. And then do that again and again. And if you want some motivation on that, have a look at the video where I was talking about my nightly practice, which I'll link here above. In that video, I'm talking about how I approach this literally every single day, or as much as I can. Now, if we are able to recognize, like I was talking about in the first of these 3 videos here, that we have this internal mud, right? We've identified that we hold traumas, that we are finally starting to look at them. We're encouraged to accept that maybe pain is the indication to try to get us to look inside. It's a beautiful, like, hey, look, this is where you need to pay attention because that's why there's a little bit of pain or discomfort or memory or belief or whatever it might be. If we can start to do that, it's like the little calling card of the area that needs our attention. And as we start to give those areas of our existence more and more and more attention, then that mud starts to leave. It starts to become clean, if you will, meaning that it's just simply no longer there. When you face your shadow, it doesn't exist. That's what we find. And obviously, I mean that metaphorically, but that is in reality what happens. The only thing to fear is fear itself. If we are too afraid to face the mud, then we're never going to face it, and we're going to live an entire life that is crippled by that fear, right? I know I have to do this. I know I have to, but I'm too scared. I'm too afraid. I can't do it. That's fine. Maybe right now it's too heavy, but come back. Build up a little bit more courage. Even just recognize the path. See where you need to go. That might be all you need to do for the first bit. Build up that courage. Take a step. One more step, and then step by step, you start to move on that journey. And that journey here, in its totality, is to transcend the mud. It's to polish clean the mirror. And I really love that analogy of like a dirty mirror, because the external world is just a reflection of our internal self. So imagine you've got a mirror right in front of you, and you're looking at your reflection, but it's all distorted and maybe off-colored or warped or whatever it might be. And it's like all of those little discolorings and warpings and disfigurations, those are your traumas. That's your mud, right? That's the thing that you're trying to work through. And so imagine every time you face that self, that mud, every time you go into that pain and are grateful that the pain is guiding you to where you need to look. It's like you take a little cloth and you polish a little part of the mirror clean. And then what do you see? You see you, right? You see your real self. You see your beauty being reflected right back at you. So imagine if bit by bit, day by day, practice by practice, you clean that mirror until the mirror is simply you. Well, then what do you get to? Where are you? You're at a point where the external world and the internal world are indistinguishable. They're the same because there's peace in here, so there has to be peace out here, because that, the external, is just helping you recognize in your internal self what you need to work on. And so what does that mean? Well, that's the beauty of the whole thing. If we have internal peace, then we're free. We are no longer needing to live a life full of distraction, mental and physical addictions, or beliefs, or attachments. We're simply moving from event to event with less and less anger and pain and resistance, frustration, expectation, even with less joy, even with less happiness. And that's, again, a point that I've talked about a lot. It's not that joy and happiness are negative things. It's the attachment to those that can become difficult. Like if we go to an event or if we go to something that we're really looking forward to with so much joy, it was so amazing, it was so awesome, great. But then what does that mean about the thing that's happening just after that event? We might come down. We might be like, oh, I wish I was back at that other thing that was so much better. Now we're suffering again, right? That's what I mean. So if we can transcend that so that the mirror is clean and the internal space is clean, then both are quiet and we can move step by step through our life in peace. And so we are not then trying to busy our day or keep every moment of our existence occupied with meaningless conversations or with drugs or with heavy food or with anything, with constant conversation or just busyness, travel, whatever, all these types of things that we have, these billions of things to fill our day. We're simply at peace. We're at peace. That's so beautiful, right? You transcend the self, you go through the darkness, and we arrive down on the true self. We arrive down into the space of the being where we can finally rest, because we've arrived beyond the things that we were holding on to. And not only have we arrived beyond the things that we were holding on to, but we've arrived beyond the memory or the attachment of those things. And once we do that, they simply no longer exist. They no longer have an effect on us, right? It's like the hooks and all the weight that these things are attaching to our back or to our bodies, metaphorically. It's like those are gone. Or another example for this, it's like you have a cold. Let's say you just have a cold, you're feeling sick or whatever. So you're working to repair yourself. You might sleep a little bit longer. You might be taking medicines. You might go to a sauna, whatever it might be. That's you facing the mud, right? Once we go all the way through it, your body has healed. When you're on the other side of that illness, I hope anyways, you're not longing for the thing like, oh man, that was such a great, I wish the cold would come back. I wish I could be sick again. I don't think many people think that way. I hope they don't anyways. It's the exact same thing here. We go through the mud, we transcend, even if it's just a little part of that mirror to wash it clean. Once it's clean, it's clean. That's it. And so we can either move on with more of our journey or we can rest. But we're going to keep transcending that mud and facing it, because the more that we do that and the more that that mirror becomes clean, we start to recognize that the only thing, like I've been saying here, that we had to fear was fear itself. Sometimes it's heavy. Sometimes it's overwhelming. Sometimes it feels like it can be crippling, and there's just no possible way you can do it. Fair enough. That's fine. Try again and again and again. And even if it's just little baby steps, to each and every one of these little steps, you have to keep moving in a direction that is taking you away from suffering. This life of constant distraction will kill you. It is the weight of constantly occupying everything in our lives. Never makes anybody happy. It never brings any joy. It never brings any award or any joy in the body. It never brings any freedom. It just doesn't, right? It's not me saying that. Just look at everybody who is like this, everybody who is constantly busy. Where's the happiness? Where's the peace? There's no peace. Peace is literally the exact opposite of constantly being busy. So a busy mind and a busy body is never at rest. If we polish that mirror clean and we start to recognize a peace inside, then the whole external space becomes at peace as well, and we can simply be at rest. And that is such a beautiful gift. Work on going into the mud. Even if you can't stay there from 5-10 minutes, even if it's just one breath, try that and then come out, and then try for 2 and come out, try for 10 breaths and then come back out if it's too much. Find help if it's too much. Get a Reiki session, talk to a psychologist or a psychotherapist, do healing work, do meditation work, psychedelic therapy, whatever it might be that resonates with you, to bring you into that space so that you can face that a little bit more. Every bit of work that you do in the mud creates all this peace and tranquility in your external world. And all of that starts to radiate and flourish and be at abundance, because that's what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be beings that are in peace and at love, right? With everything, and flowing and moving and content and happy and not attached. Is it always possible? Of course not. We're human. Is it always the aim? I hope so. I hope these videos have helped everybody. Thank you so much for the support on the channel here. And if you haven't already, have a look around at my other videos helping you on your holistic wellness and Reiki practices. And I'm very, very grateful for your support with a subscription. And let me know in the comments below how you found this 3-part series on turning into the mud to assist your own practice and your own journey. Thank you, everybody. As always, be well and In Gassho.